Internets, Happy New Year. Welcome to Passport to Flavor. If you did not know, September 11th was Ethiopian New Year's. So in honor of that day, we are going to be making one of my favorite dishes from Ethiopia, sambusa. Now you might have heard of samosas before. Samosas, sambusa, similar thing. It's a triangle pastry. Comes from the Persian word sambusang, which means delightful triangle. So these are delightful. So what we're going to start out with is some lentils. With these lentils, we want to check and make sure that there are no rocks in them. And I know that sounds kind of crazy to hear, but lentils grow on gravel. The machines that pick up the lentils, sometimes they pick up rocks. So you just want to kind of peek through and make sure there's no big chunks of anything. Like there's a split pea in here too, which is nice, but you know. So we're just looking through to make sure I don't see any rocks, and I don't. Always make sure you check these beforehand because it happens more than you think. So now we're going to take these lentils and just put them into a pot and get them cooking. These are going to take a decent bit of time to cook. If you have an Instapot, that works too. You can find a recipe online for how to make these in Instapot way faster. Okay, so we have our lentils in the pot. This is about a cup of lentils. To that, we're going to add some water just to cover it, about 2 inches covering it. And just a little bit of salt to give it some flavor as it's cooking. So as these are cooking, the water is going to drain out. Lentils take a long time to cook. So the water is going to drain out of here. We might have to add more water back in. What we're looking for is a texture that's soft to the bite, but still they're all separated. It shouldn't be like a pasty mess. While that's happening, we're going to cut the jalapeno. So the key things that make a sambusa different than a samosa, samosas are typically filled with potatoes and various spices. With a sambusa, which comes from Ethiopia, we're using lentils, a little bit of jalapeno, and then something called mita, which we'll get to a little bit later. So now it's time just to cut the jalapeno up so we're ready while these are cooking. We're just looking for a mince. Wear gloves if you're sensitive. These jalapenos, jalapenos come in different levels of spice. Sometimes you never know. It can be super spicy. Other times it can be not spicy at all. So if you like spice, great. Try to find a spicy one. You can use serrano peppers or something else instead. But we're just going to mince these up until they're nice and small. When I graduated from culinary school, I felt like I needed to do something a little different than just get into the workforce. So I actually went for 2 months and moved to Ethiopia, worked in an orphanage. And while I was there on the way back, there was this lady who sold sambusas. And I ate one a day every day I was there for 2 months. They cost like 2 birr at the time. 2 birr was the equivalent to like half a penny. So it was like the cheapest thing ever. I ate one a day and it was the greatest thing ever. So I think you're going to enjoy these once they're ready and done. After going to Ethiopia, I came back and started working, and I actually met my wife, and she's Ethiopian as well. So that was a great connection that brought us together. So every New Year's, we get together with her whole family and celebrate eating a bunch of Ethiopian food. If you didn't know, DC, Silver Spring area has the largest population of Ethiopians outside of Ethiopia itself. So there's a lot of restaurants around, a lot of great culture. And you'll be able to try that food and see its uniqueness somewhere in the area near you. So check it out. One of the ingredients that we're going to be putting in that I mentioned is called mita. Mita is a spice blend. This one is actually pretty spicy. This is like, if you're trying to make sure your kids don't say bad words, you give them a little bit of this and they're not going to say bad words anymore. So this is like a pepper paste, pepper powder, different mixtures of peppers that you use to sprinkle on top of things. Usually after it's cooked, people will dip like cooked beef in it to give it a little extra flavor. In this recipe, we're going to be adding it in to the lentils to give them that spice. Now, if you don't like spice at all, don't put any mita in. And if you're wondering where to buy it, you're going to have to go to an Ethiopian market. There's a ton around. In my area, we got a bunch within a couple miles. So go in, mita, it's M-I-T-M-I-T-A, very easy to spell, and they should be able to help you find that. If not, a little cayenne might work as well. Or if you don't want spice at all, it's completely okay. Some people don't put spice in at all. So we're going to check on these lentils, stir them around a little bit. They should come to a boil, and then we're just going to let them cook for a decent bit until they're nice and soft. As you can see, the lentils have started to simmer. This is what we're looking for, and now is the waiting game. These are basically going to cook. We want to stir every once in a while. You might see the water completely evaporate if you didn't put as much water as I did. You might have to add some more water. So taste a little bit, check the texture. It should be like pasta where you bite into it and it bites through, but it's not like sticking to your teeth or anything like that. So we'll let this boil, keep checking it. Like I said, you could do this in the Instapot. I know they sell already cooked like canned lentils. I'm not sure how that would work in this preparation. I think it's better to cook it fresh, but something to try if you wanted to too, to cut back on the time. So we'll let these boil, and then we'll come back when they're done and get ready to make the filling. I've let these lentils cook, and as I said, the water has started to evaporate, and I'm checking. I checked on it, and it is done. So what we're looking for here is that the lentils are still separated, but they're soft to the touch. So if I take it with my finger, I should be able to smash it and it should kind of break apart. That's a good sign. Obviously, tasting is the best way. So now I have the lentils made, and it's time to mix it with the other ingredients. As I mentioned, it's pretty simple ingredients. We're gonna have the lentils, which will dump into this bowl. And to that, we are gonna add jalapeno, a little bit more salt, and some of the meat mita. Now, this is all to taste, so there's not exact formula to it. It's whatever you like. My family, we like it spicy, so I'm gonna add most of it and stir it around, and we'll see how this tastes. So a little bit of that. When tasting lentils while they are cooking, I did notice there's a decent bit of salt already, so I'm not gonna add any more salt to this. But meat mita also has a little bit of salt in it, so you can see here it's like this light pepper powder. Now there's another very popular pepper powder from Ethiopia called berbere. Berbere is used in almost all the recipes. It is more for cooking. It's something that you would put in at the beginning to depth and flavor, and that one's not as spicy. This one is more like a end seasoning and has a decent bit of spice. So if hesitant on the spice, this still would taste good without it. Why not have some spice though? So we're just mixing this together, and always taste your food. Check it and we'll see. The jalapenos have a good kick. Meat mita's there. I'm gonna add the rest of the jalapenos just because I think it could use a little bit more. But once again, that's all a personal taste thing. So the next step to this is forming the sambusas, which is probably the most intricate part. If you're looking at a recipe, it's not gonna make sense. So watching this is gonna be a good way for you to kind of pick up on that skill. So now it's time to form the sambusas themselves. I'm gonna be using egg roll wrappers today. You can use spring roll wrappers, any sort of wrapper, but you want it to be big squares, not those tiny ones they use for dumplings. So I'm just gonna get a couple out to show you what they look like. This is what we're looking for, a nice square pastry. Now egg roll wrappers are gonna get a little bit more of a bubbly crispiness around the outside. Spring roll wrappers are gonna kind of stay more flat and get crispy, but more flaky, I guess is the right word. So whichever one you prefer works. But now it's time for the fun part, which is forming them. This took me a good bit to get, so don't worry if it's not working out for you the first time. But what you do want to have is some sort of tray that you can place these on and keep them separated, because this is a great recipe that you can freeze and have them in your fridge and cook them from frozen, and you don't ever have to worry about making them because they're always there. So any sort of tray, something with some parchment paper on it or some sort of foil would work as well, just so we can keep them separated. So if we put them in the fridge, we can freeze them, and then after they're frozen, put them in the freezer, we can freeze them, and then we can put them into bags. So the other thing I need to have, aside from my wrappers and my filling, is a little bit of water. This water is just to dip my hands in to seal it. So with this wrapper, what we want to do is we want to fold it in half. The purpose of folding it in half is to make it extra crispy. We like extra crispy. So I'm going to dip my fingers in here just so I can seal it, and I'm going to wet half of it and fold it over just to make one rectangle piece. Okay? And this is the first step. Now it's like making a paper football, which hopefully you've done before, but if not, what we're doing first is we're making a triangle like that. So one triangle down on the bottom of the rectangle, and then we're going to fold this over until it meets on the other side and it looks kind of like a diamond, I guess, right? This also creates a pouch. If I open this up, I have a little cone that I can stuff with the filling. So I'm going to take the filling and put this in. And then once again, I'm going to dip my hands in the water, and this is just to help it seal it. A lot of Ethiopian people will use like a flour and water mixture to seal it a little bit better. That's completely fine. You do you. It depends on what type of wrapper it is. Sometimes wrappers don't stick as well, so if you're seeing that's an issue, you can always add a little bit of flour into the water mixture and it'll stick. And sometimes there'll be holes in the top and the ingredients can leak out, but I think those are sometimes the best ones because the lentils get a little bit crispier inside. So let me show you that again, just so you can get some practice. You can always rewind the video too if need be, but we're gonna dip our hands and fold this in half. This is gonna make it nice and crispy. Double the crisp, always better. Then once again, there's a triangle down here. We fold it up. We're going to take this corner and bring it all the way up to the corner on the top. Hold it in your hand. And like I said, you got a little pocket. This pocket is going to get filled with lentils. And then it's time to seal it. So just take some water and we're going to brush it on top and fold it over. If you see it's coming out anywhere, just get a little bit more water and seal it up. Okay? And you just keep doing this until they're all done. There is one other way you could try if you're like, that looks too complicated. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Don't try this way because you can do that. I believe in you. But just in case, we can take a little bit of the filling, put it in the center here, and make a little top hat for it. Just bring one side over like that, and the other side on top. Dip our hands in to make sure that those sides stick together. And then we just do that again on the bottom, fold it up, and wrap it around. And we have another way of doing it. Now the issue with this one is it's going to be flatter. It's not as pretty. They're a little wide. You can't cook as many in the pan. So I believe in you. You can do these. But just keep making these until they're all ready, and then the next step is frying them. So let me get a pan ready, and I'll be back in a second, and we'll get these ready to go. While you were gone, I made a couple more for us to have. So now, like I said, all we need to do is fry them. If you have a deep fryer, great. You can deep fry these. Most people don't want to get the hassle of getting that out and cleaning it. So I just have a pan here, which you're going to drizzle a bunch of oil in to make a shallow fry. So the whole pan should be coated on the bottom. You want enough that generally it's going to go up like halfway on the side of these. So just try to, think about that as you're heating up the oil. Turn it on about a medium-high heat and let that heat up. Now, if you're cooking these from frozen, you can cook them from frozen. You don't need to let them thaw out. Key thing, though, is that they're going to take longer, so that temperature should be slightly lower, because if you don't do that, the outside's going to burn and the inside's going to be somewhat still frozen, which is not always the best. So, like I said, you just heat this up and we'll wait for it to get hot and we'll start cooking these. We will need a paper towel lined plate or something to put them on, so make sure you have that ready as well. I'm going to go get that ready and I'll be right back. So, if you're trying to figure out if the oil is hot enough and ready to go, if I just hold my hand out above it, not in the pan, we don't want to burn ourselves. If I'm feeling like my hand needs to sweat, that's usually a sign that it's hot enough. Another way to do it is if you take anything wooden, not coated in some bamboo is coated in some stuff, and you stick it into the bottom of the pan, you should start to see little bubbles form around the wood. That lets you know that it's hot enough. You could also always just dip a little bit in. If it sizzles, great. If not, take it out. So it was sizzling. I'm going to put it seam side down so the fold is down. And we can cook maybe 2 or 3 of these in a pan at once, whatever you're most comfortable with. And we'll let these cook. It's probably going to be about 2 or 3 minutes per side. Flip them. Then we put them on our paper towel to let them dry out, or to let the oil drain off, and then we're ready to go. So like I said, when I was in Ethiopia, basically people all over are selling these on the streets. It's a common thing that you would get on the way home from work. There are sometimes you find them filled with beef, but most restaurants you go to, lentils is the veggie option, and they will have beef, although when I was there, I never had one with beef. I didn't know. A lot of times it was fasting season too. So for many Ethiopians who are Orthodox Ethiopian, they fast for different holidays, which means that they're vegan for extended periods of time. So a lot of people there, for certain parts of the year are vegan. So if you are a vegan person and you want to try some new foods you haven't before, Ethiopian food is the way to go because there's a lot of options for you out there. So yeah, definitely give these a try. What I'm looking for on them is I should start to see color on the bottom. It should start to get brown. If it's starting to brown too quick, that's something where we need to turn it down. Like you saw, all the filling is pre-cooked. There's nothing we need to worry about making us sick in here. So it's not too big of a concern, but we want warm inside. So we're checking, and I can see that this is nice and golden brown. So I'm going to go ahead and flip that one over. Do the same with the others. I have, in the past, also trying to be a little healthier, baked these. I would spray them with oil and put them in like a 450-degree oven. It doesn't get the same texture. It's kind of like it's not the same as the real thing, so I say fry it. But if you're trying to be healthy and you still want to try this, by all means, just spray both sides with oil, put it in a pan, bake it at like 450 for maybe 10 minutes. Keep an eye on it. It should change color like this. That's a good question. So no, traditionally they don't, but a lot of restaurants do have it, but like on the streets, no, I never saw it with anything, but yeah. Let's see. Okay, so we're just continuing to check this to make sure that they're cooking on both sides. If you see that like maybe you didn't have enough oil in the pan like I might have had, it's not coming all the way up the sides. If you have tongs, you can flip it up, don't do what I'm doing, and just let it cook on the bottom a little bit until we got some golden brown on all sides. Many cultures have a triangular pastry like this. You find it in India. Like I said, you find it much of the Middle East, Ethiopia, Kenya. All these places have some sort of triangle pastry. It seems to all have originated from like early Mesopotamia area from what I've understood. So that goes out through trade and people have their own versions. So where it's potatoes in India, it's lentils in Ethiopia. If you go to Eritrea, sometimes they put different seasonings and spices in it as well. So if we're looking, that might be a little too far, but that's still nice and good. It's not burnt yet. Depending on how you like your sambusas, this might be a little dark. So that's a sign it's ready to take them. It's time to take them out. So like I said, just let them drain on a paper towel lined plate, and you're pretty much ready to eat it. Now don't bite into it right away because that's going to be pretty hot. Some restaurants serve these with a dipping sauce. Traditionally on the street, you're not going to find one. So if you want to, any sort of like cilantro-based sauce is what I've seen before, but try it the way it is. You don't really need anything. So now if you want to plate it pretty or anything, you can just grab a plate on its own, stack them up, and you got a delicious sambusa. So please try this recipe. If you don't want to make it, go out to an Ethiopian restaurant and try some of the food. It's all delicious. You're going to love it. And I'm not just saying that because my wife's Ethiopian, okay? So let's take a bite. Or actually, you know what? Let's cut this so you can see what it looks like on the inside. Okay. So let's just take one of these so you can see what it looks like on the inside. I'm just going to break this right in half so you can see a cross section. And you're going to see a little bit of lentils, that little green from the jalapenos inside, and you have a delicious little crunchy pastry, a delightful triangle like the original name suggests. So let's give it a taste. Spicy, crunchy, delicious. Make sure you try this out. Thank you for watching, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Passport to Flavor.